Yo, what's up, nerds? It's MTG Man, and I'm here to prove that infinite combos really aren't everything. This deck, kind of a budget deck. It's a little bit over $100, 103 to be exact. Apparently this is at an upgraded level. Ooh. But this deck's called Let's Get Infinite. Why is it called that, I hear you asked? MTG Man, why would you name a deck like that? That's a weird name. All this deck does is infinite combos. This deck plays as many common infinite combo pieces as I could find. What I mean by that is that they work with multiple different cards. So, like, take, for example, Good Fortune Unicorn. So whenever another creature you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. So this goes infinite with Safehold Elite because of the persist ability, where when this creature dies, if it had no -1/-1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a -1/-1 counter. Here's the thing. When it enters with a -1/-1 counter, it'll enter with a +1/+1 from Good Fortune Unicorn, and those two will cancel each other out and both get removed. So you'll be able to sacrifice Safehold Elite or have it die, either way, just an infinite number of times, because every time it'll come back with a +1/+1 and a -1/-1. So Persist won't see either because they both get removed. We have another creature with Persist, Kishin Finks, to do the same thing with. We basically just want a card to work with multiple infinite combos. Things like Presence of Gond, where you enchant a creature, enchanted creature has tap, create a 1/1 elf warrior creature token. Now, you can use Midnight Guard, where whenever another creature enters, you untap Midnight Guard. So you enchant it, tap him to create an elf. When that elf enters, he untaps, and then you can retap him and do that infinite times to create an infinite number of elves. You can then also use Presence of Gond and something like Lurking Roper or a Famished Paladin, where Famished Paladin doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever you gain life, you untap it. Same with Lurking Roper. And then if you have something like an Essence Warden or a Soul Warden, where you tap them to create the 1/1 elf. When the elf enters, you gain 1 life, so they untap, and then you can just retap them for another elves. Therefore, you're gaining infinite life and creating infinite elves. We have the kind of like Rosy Cotton signature combo, where whenever you create a token, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control other than Rosy. Well, we have Scurry Oak, where whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on it, you create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. So that squirrel will then trigger Rosy Cotton to put a counter on another creature, which you put on Scurry Oak to create another squirrel. You do that infinite times. You can also do that to Herd Baloth, where you'll create a 4/4 that'll trigger, so you put another counter on Herd Baloth, create another 4/4. The same thing works with Basking Broodscale. You put a counter on it, you create an Eldrazi spawn, you put another counter on it, which will also create you infinite colorless mana on top of those infinite tokens and infinite +1/+1 counters. Which, again, Scurry Oak and Herd Baloth also are going to work with Ivy Lane Denizen, because they have whenever another green creature enters under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So at that point, we have another way to create infinite +1/+1 counters and infinite tokens. Treebeard does a similar thing, where whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on target halfling or treefolk. So you put it on Scurry Oak to create a squirrel. When that squirrel enters, it'll again trigger something like an Essence Warden or a Soul Warden to gain 1 life, to put another counter on a treefolk to do that infinite time for infinite squirrels. There's things like Vizier of Remedies, where creatures can't have... Breathe. Creatures, if they would have 1 or more -1/-1 counters, they get 1 less. So if 1 -1/-1 counter would be put on them, they instead get 0. So again, all of the Persist guys will then enter with 0 -1/-1 counters so that they can die infinite times. Or if you have something like Devoted Druid, you can put a -1/-1 counter on Devoted Druid to untap it. Well, because of Vizier, we'll instead be putting 0 counters on it, but we can just add infinite green mana. We can also equip it with Swift Reconfiguration so that it becomes a vehicle. And as long as we don't crew it, power and toughness don't matter. We can just keep throwing -1/-1 counters on it and tapping and untapping it for infinite green mana. So there's infinite mana, there's infinite tokens, there's infinite +1/+1 counters. Any of those creatures that do the whole +1/+1 counter thing, like Scurry Oak or Herd Baloth, could also be equipped with a Necrosynthesis, so that enchanted creature has, whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So let's just say we have a squirrel and Scurry Oak out. So the squirrel dies, so we put a +1/+1 counter on Scurry Oak to create another squirrel. Now, if we have a sacrifice outlet, something like, let's just say, Viscera Seer, we can then sacrifice that squirrel over and over to put infinite counters on it and also scry infinite times because of Viscera Seer. This deck just basically goes infinite any way it can. I don't have time to explain every infinite combo in the deck. There's ones with an Academy Manufacturer. There's ones with Shatterfang. A really big one with Shatterfang is whenever one or more tokens would be created under your control, you also create that many 1/1 squirrel tokens, and you can sacrifice X squirrels to give target creature +X/-X until end of turn. So with Pitiless Plunder, whenever a creature you control dies, you create a treasure token. So when that treasure enters, you then create a squirrel. So you can then sacrifice that treasure for 1 black mana to sacrifice that squirrel to give one creature +X/-X, so 1. So a creature gets +1, -1. And then because a creature died, since you sacrifice that squirrel, you create another treasure. When that treasure enters, you create another squirrel, and you can just do that infinite times to kill everything on your opponent's board and possibly rack up squirrels if you can create more than one. Another one of the big combos is Experimental Confectioner, where whenever you sacrifice a food, you create a 1/1 rat token, and then we take something like Peregrine Took, where if one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus an additional food token are created. So every time you create a rat, you'll then create a food. So then when you sacrifice that food, you create a rat, which will also create a food, and you can do that infinite times. Plus, Peregrine Took has an ability to sacrifice 3 foods to draw a card. So this is a way to get card draw infinitely, because you can create an infinite number of foods. This deck just wants to go infinite as fast as possible, and then it plays these like Commune with Nature, Commune with the Gods, Ransack the Lab, in order to get, the specific creatures you need in hand. We also have Assemble the Players, because some of our cards are going to be power 2 or less. Most of them are power 2 or less. Let's be real here. Herd Baloth isn't, but that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, plus any of our sacrifice outlets. So we're just going to say 20. At least 20 cards in our deck can be got with Assemble the Players, and those cards are all combo pieces, basically. So it can kind of just put in extra work. We also have Kyla's Reconstruction. If you have infinite mana, or just mana in general, this is a good way to cheat things out and get combo cards. Threats detected. You search your library for up to 4 creatures with different powers and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2, shuffles the chosen cards into your library, and puts the rest into your hand. So there's like a number of different powers in this deck, but you probably want to do something like, we get Herd Baloth as 1 payoff. We get Rosy Cotton as our 1/1. We get Ivy Lane Denizen as the 2 power, and then we need something with 3 power. But either way, we just get a bunch of combo pieces into hand, and theoretically the opponent can't do anything about it. We also have Mana Tithe and Imp's Mischief to protect the combo. And then ramp-wise, we play a Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Fellwar Stone, Golgari Signet, Orzhov Signet, and Selesnya Signet. We also have Unearth to reanimate any of the pieces we may need. Removal-wise, just Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, Return to Nature, and Slaughter the Strong is a solid board wipe, because you're probably going to be able to keep whatever the most important combo pieces on tap. Like, you keep your combo pieces intact, and you can kind of just wipe the rest of the board. Viscera Seer, Bartolomé del Presidio, Dross Hopper, Ashnod's Altar, Bloodfoe Connoisseur. They're all sack outlets. The deck needs a handful of sack outlets because they come into play with a couple of the combos, but like Bloodflow Connoisseur can get infinitely big, so that's good. Ashnod's Altar will kind of set you up with infinite mana. Dross Hopper is just here because it's a cheap sack outlet. Bartolomé del Presidio is again just going to get infinitely big. And then Viscera Seer will let you scry through your entire deck if you have infinite sacrifices. So you can kind of just get whatever card you need. Tutor-wise, we play a Profane Tutor, Analyze the Pollen, Case of the Stash Skeleton, Eladamri's Call, and Eldritch Evolution. We also have these like win cons where if we have infinite sacrifices, Cruel Celebrant will win us the game. If we have infinite mana, we can win with Exsanguinate. Same with infinite sacrifices again, Bastion of Remembrance. Or if we have infinite tokens, we can win with Kambal's second ability. Or if we have infinite tokens and infinite sacrifices, we win to Nadir's triggered ability. Land-wise, we play Command Tower. Escape Tunnel, because... Now, Escape Tunnel is kind of a vision card, okay? Here's what you do. You have target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. So you take something like a Scurry Oak, where Scurry Oak starts off as a 1/2, and then you target it with Escape Tunnel so it can't be blocked this turn, right? And then you enact your combo so that Scurry Oak becomes, like, infinitely big, and it's still unblockable. So you swing in for, like, an infinite amount of damage. I don't know how well that'll actually work, but at worst it's just an Evolving Wilds, which we're also playing an Exotic Orchard and Forests, Plains, Swamps, Terramorphic Expanse. The land base is very simple. I did not want to go above and beyond here. Plus, it wouldn't really fit in the budget because we're above $100 as is. Let's just see how this works. Here's my proof that infinite combos aren't everything. We keep this. I would be a fool to turn this down. Wow, okay. So we go turn 1, Forest, pass. Turn 2, Eladamri's Call. Yeah. So we search for a creature. I think here we search for a Rosy Cotton. We move it to our hand, and we go to turn 3. We're going to play a land for turn. We are going to play an Arcane Signet. We're going to Arcane Signet into Basking Broodscale. And then we go to turn 4. We go, wha-bam, Rosy Cotton of South Lane, bitches. When she enters, she creates that food token. The food token will then trigger because we created a token. So we'll put a +1/+1 counter on Basking Broodscale. And then whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on Basking Broodscale, we can create a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn with sacrifice this creature, add colorless. So we create one of those, which Rosy Cotton will then trigger to put another counter on Basking Broodscale. We're going to create 1,000,000 of them. So we have 1,000,000 colorless mana. We are then going to Academy Manufacture. Here's the thing, too. Basking Broodscale came in last turn, so it doesn't have Summoning Sickness. So we can swing at a player for 1,000,000 on turn 4. And then I guess we would also run out Assemble the Players so we can look at the top card of our library. We can't cast it right now. But who cares? We swing for 1,000,000 fucking damage at someone. We go to turn 5. We get to look at the top card. It's a Forest, which we cannot play. We'll play Midnight Guard just so we have another option. If we want to go infinite another way. But let's be real here. I didn't even sacrifice the Evolving Wilds yet. We swing in for 1,000,000. What are they going to do about that? They can chump block it, sure, but they can only have so many chump blockers. And eventually, you're just going to win by swinging for 1,000,000 every turn. And once they remove it, oh well, you still have infinite mana. You still have 1,000,000 0/1s. Do you know what 1,000,000 0/1s looks like? A lot. That's like a bajillion token. Like, you're not losing at that point. If you lose at that point, it's a skill issue. Because here's what we do. We play Ghave, Guru of Spores because we have the mana, and we can just start sacrificing them to create Saprolings, which will then put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control other than Rosy, which will put on Ghave to create another with infinite mana. There is infinite possibilities here. So let's just do that. We sacrifice 1 for a colorless mana to remove a -1/-1 counter from Ghave. So now he's a 4/4 to create a 1/1 Saproling. When that Saproling enters, we get a Rosy Cotton trigger, making Ghave a 5/5. And then we just sacrifice another one, do it infinite times to create infinite Saprolings. And oh no, we ran out of mana because we ran out of Scions. Well, we can evolve Basking Broodscale. Actually, we can't evolve Basking Broodscale. Boo. But at any point during this combo, we can put the counter on Basking Broodscale, start doing that again for infinite mana again. This deck just goes infinite. That's what it does. We'll play a second hand, just to be sure it wasn't a fluke. I may have to mulligan this. I'm going to be honest. This might not be it. Okay, so this may look bad, but I think I actually keep this. Because we go these to the bottom. We keep that. We go Forest. We go Pass. We go Evolving Wilds. Now, we're going to search for a Plains. Move it onto the battlefield tapped. Which I guess really, we should have done that first turn, because we would have drawn the Evolving Wilds for turn. But whatever. Whatever. Now, we play this Swamp. And as much as I think we could... Yeah. So, my bad. So we're going to search our library for a Vizier of Remedies, move it to our hand, and we are going to shuffle. Now here's the thing. The opponent knows we have a Vizier of Remedies now. They are probably going to shut us down. We do not let them shut us down. We go Devoted Druid, we go Vizier of Remedies. Now, starting next turn, we have infinite green mana. You can do a lot of things with infinite green mana. Let's be fair here. And now we have a... Well, we'll just tap and untap Devoted Druid 50 bazillion times for 50 bazillion green mana. So we'll play a Herd Baloth. We are going to... Do we go infinite here? Because we can use the white-black and then infinite green. No, we don't go infinite here. Boo. We use some infinite green for an Academy Manufactor. We can return to nature something if we want. But either way, we could use some of that infinite green to remove all of the counters from... So, we remove 5 counters. We remove 4 counters to create 4 Saprolings. Then we pay 1 4 times to sacrifice a creature 4 times to put 4 +1/+1 counters on target creature, which will be Herd Baloth. So now we have a 8/8 Herd Baloth. We'll remove the last counter from Ghave just because. So we have an 8/8 Herd Baloth, 4/4/4 Beast tokens, a 1/1 Saproling, infinite green mana, and an Academy Manufacturer. Next turn, we just run back Ghave, Vizier of Spores, and do it again. Because infinite green mana is... And we play a Soul Warden. Actually, do we even... No, we don't even play Soul Warden, because we just want to rerun out Ghave and just do the same thing all over again onto Herd Baloth, so we can create more 4/4s. Sure, we're not infinite here, but this is the kind of value that's really hard to keep up with. And as soon as we have something to do with our infinite green mana, the opponent's dead. There is nothing they can do unless they start removing our combo pieces. And if they can't remove our combo pieces, there's nothing they can do. I mean, infinite green mana is infinite green mana. And then at this point, we get Peregrine Took. Every time we create a Saproling, we'll also create a food. And every time we create a food, we'll also create a treasure and a clue. And I think we go infinite here. I think this is infinite. Let me be honest. I think this deck performed a little bit better than I was expecting. That being said still, I don't think infinite combos are everything. I think that they can put a lot of work into a deck. Like, I have this Cabal deck I've been working on, and it uses this cute combo where you take Darkest Hour to make all creatures black, and then whenever a black creature dies, you create a 1/1 spirit, and that spirit will become black, so when the spirit dies, you can sacrifice it, or you'll create another spirit, and you just basically have infinite spirits to sacrifice. And that really carries my Cabal deck. I haven't finished this deck, mind you, but from like the playtests I did where I just threw in basic lands to fill in the rest of the deck, it played pretty well. I think infinite combos can really add to a deck, but I don't think they're everything. And I think this is the perfect example because, sure, we had infinite mana turn 4, but we really didn't have that much to do with it. So I think the deck needs something to finish with. If this deck could afford a couple tutors, like a couple more tutors, I think it would actually be even better. And or if we focus down on what types of combos, because let's be real, we have 20 different types of combos going on right here, and some of them work with each other and some of them really don't. The nice thing is that with certain pieces being kind of universal, like Scurry Oak goes infinite with 1, 2, 3. I mean, you need the Essence Warden and the Soul Warden if you want it to go infinite with Treebeard, Necrosynthesis, and a Sack Outlet. But you see what I mean. Some of these cards go infinite with 4 or 5 or 6 different ways. But then we also have things like Midnight Guard, where if you don't get the Presence of Gond, Midnight Guard doesn't really go infinite with anything else in the deck. So it is a little bit reliant on how you draw, how you get cards in hand. And I think that is a major weakness of the deck. However, it was actually kind of strong, I'm going to be honest. This feels like bracket 3 upgraded precon. I think that's kind of fair. I mean, especially, I don't think this deck should be bracket 1. I'm going to talk about this deck. But like if we look at my other decks, like my Insect one, that's a bracket 3. It has some infinite combos, but like, it feels about right. I think brackets are not the best way of judging decks, but it's definitely an interesting way. I just don't... It's hard to say. Because I think that sometimes a 3 is going to be outperformed by lower decks. I think sometimes a 4 is going to be outshined by a 3. I think sometimes a 3 is going to be outshined by a 2. I think the brackets just aren't accurate because, let's be real, you can load your deck up with every 2-mana rock and then some counter spells and, you know, all the best cards that would work and not make it a 3 power. And I think it could actually just beat a 3 outright. Because just because the deck has infinite combos doesn't mean it's powerful. That being said, this has been MTG Man. I'm probably going to work on some other videos. I kind of just want to start putting stuff out. I guess I made one today, and I felt kind of inspired, so... that being said, this is MTG Man, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.